Going, it's Sam Frost here, back with another video. This is part of my new Easy PPC Tutorials series where I'm going to make it easier for you to manage your own paid advertising online. And what we're going to do in this video is cover a really important topic, and that's whether or not you can actually manage your own Google Ads. And this also applies to any other kind of PPC advertising platform like Bing Ads, for example. But the video is, can you really manage your own Google Ads? This is a slightly different style of video to what I've normally done on this channel. Normally my videos are quite conversational, me talking to the camera. They're usually relatively short. This will be a longer video, and it's all sort of screen capture, going through basically a presentation where I'm going to be running you through the things you need to know about managing your own Google Ads. So let's get started. So in this video, we're going to cover a few different things. We're going to start with looking at the truth about Google Ads DIY management. We're then going to look at the pros and cons of professional versus DIY management of Google Ads, what you need to be aware of. We're going to look at how you minimize the risks and costs of running your own Google Ads to basically make the chance of success higher. And then we're going to finish up with a simple conclusion as well. So let's start by looking at DIY management and what you need to be aware of. So the truth is that you can manage your own campaigns. Some people will say that no one should ever manage their own Google Ads advertising unless they're an expert. Now, ultimately, in an ideal world, and obviously I'm biased in saying this because I do Google Ads management for clients, but if you had unlimited resources in your business, you'd get someone professional to do it for you, and you'd free up the time, and you'd probably get better results. But when you're starting out in business, if you're a small business, if funds are tight at the moment, you can manage your own campaigns and you can do it successfully and you can get results. They might not be as good as a professional manager might be, but you definitely can do it. So don't let people put you off. However, the difficulty of managing your own campaigns and the likelihood of success will differ depending on your industry, what you're selling, those kinds of things. So for example, in my experience, it tends to be harder to do it yourself for Google Ads for e-commerce than it is for a local service business. And that's often because with e-commerce, you're competing against bigger players in the market. There's lots of different things you've got to look at around conversion rates and how you're optimizing your ads and everything. Not to say that there isn't for local service businesses, but if you're doing something simple like you operate a plumbing business, for example, and you're a plumber in Dunedin, then it's pretty easy to think about the kinds of keywords and the kinds of locations you've got to target. It's just what you put in front of them. If you want to succeed with DIY Google Ads management, you must be willing to invest time and money into learning the platform. If you're sitting there thinking, look, I just want to I just want to press a couple of buttons and hopefully see some results, really, it's not going to end well for you. Google is moving more and more over time towards making their platform a bit like a sort of a gumball machine you put, or a vending machine, put some money in and something drops out of the bottom. And, if we revisit this topic in a few years' time, I suspect it will be much easier to go to Google and say, look, I'm a small business. What I want to do is just give you, $100 or $200 a month or whatever your budget is, and I want to see some money out of that. So, we will revisit this in the future. But for now, if you want to succeed, if you want to actually run your own Google Ads effectively and not waste money, you do need to be willing to invest some time and money into learning how to do it. What's really important is working with a Google Ads account and campaign structure that minimizes risk. So this piece is so crucial. If you're managing it yourself, I think one of the most important things to do is try and minimize risk rather than maximize performance. What tends to happen in my experience with people who manage their own Google Ads campaigns is that they don't do enough work to minimize risk, and I'll come in and take a look. A client will call me up and say, hey, look, I've been running my own Google Ads for 6 months and nothing seems to be working and I'm paying all this money. And you go in and have a look, and the account has been set up basically not to reduce the risk of wasting money. So what I'm going to do is talk more about what you must do to minimize risk and basically reduce the chance of wasting your money. And you do also need to consider the value of your time. Maybe you are better off paying someone else. And that all depends really on how you value your own time, the state of your business. If you are just starting out and you're sort of time rich but cash poor, then you've probably got the time and the inclination to learn this. But on the other hand, if your business is ticking away really nicely, you're doing well, perhaps it is just better to pay someone else to do it for you so you can focus on what you're really good at in your business. So let's now take a look at the pros and cons of professional versus DIY management. We've established you can do it yourself, but what's better about using a pro versus doing it yourself? Well, one thing you need to be aware of with professional management is that the costs can vary greatly. So pricing models can change. What people are charging you can change. Pricing models can be things like a percentage of media spend. So if your ad budget is $1,000 a month, an agency might put a percentage of media spend. So they'll say, hey, we charge 20% of media spend. Often there'll be a minimum figure in there as well. This percentage of media spend is, in my experience, a little bit more common when dealing with higher budgets and larger agencies. So, companies that are spending into the thousands of dollars a month on advertising. Some people will charge you an hourly rate. Someone might quote you 3 hours a month at, $100 an hour to manage your ads. People will do retainer. I tend to work on retainer, so fixed price per month. And some people even now do performance-based management, so they expect to get a cut of the gains they bring to your account. So with professional management, you've got the sort of option of these many different pricing models. One thing you have to be aware of is that for smaller businesses with smaller spends, the cost of management can often equal or exceed the amount of money you're spending on ads. So this is something I encounter all the time in my business. So someone will call me up or they'll email me and they'll say, hey Sam, I want to run Google Ads for my business. My ad spend budget is $250 a month. Now, without wishing to sound rude or sort of big-headed or anything like that, the stage my business is at, I can't really afford to manage someone's Google Ads account for that price. I've got other projects I'm working on. It simply wouldn't work out well for me. And often what will tend to happen is that you get put in this awkward position where you're asking around for people to manage your, especially if you're a smaller business, you're asking around for people to manage your ads accounts, and they'll often be charging you or wanting to charge you more than you're spending on ad spend. And in that situation, it's sometimes better to do it yourself, simply because you can divert more ad spend back into the campaigns rather than paying for management. So are you better off to have a stab at managing it yourself, and then you basically benefit from the extra clicks you can get. And if you've got your campaign structured right, if you've been watching the videos on this channel, if you've been following the resources I recommend, maybe instead of if, let's say your total budget for ads and management is $500 a month, instead of paying someone $250 to manage it and then only having $250 for the spend budget, are you better off to put all $500 towards managing it yourself, and then actually getting more clicks and hopefully getting more performance out of it? And that's not a question I can answer without knowing how you're going to go about setting up your campaign, but hopefully by watching this video, you'll certainly be on the right path to being able to divert more budget back towards advertising. Obviously as you scale up and you get bigger budgets, if your business grows, then you reach that point where it really does make sense to bring someone else on. But yeah, when you're starting out, definitely this is a challenge that tons of businesses encounter. There are freelancers who will do work for a lower cost, but you've also got to consider that, someone who's got years of experience who might be charging $150, $200, $250 an hour, they might need a fraction of the time that someone who's just learning how to use AdWords needs, and they might be able to get you a lot better results as well. So always consider value and not just cost. You might actually spend more with a pro but wind up getting much better results and therefore come out on top, but equally it may work out that it's better just to divert that extra money back into ad spend and you'll get better results that way. So what you do need to be aware of with professional Google Ads management is you've got to be wary of unscrupulous vendors, people who charge way too much. I mean, I've seen, I've worked more as a consultant on projects where people have been paying way through the nose for substandard management of their ads campaigns. They might have only been spending $500 a month on ad spend, but spending $1,000, $1,500 on management, and they've been talked into that situation. People who aren't doing any work to actively manage the account, all sorts of things. If you are thinking of bringing someone on board to manage your ads, and you're not sure if what they're saying is plausible, I'm always happy to have a chat to anyone who really needs help. Certainly it may work out better if I can push my own services for a second, for you to pay for a little bit of my time to review what someone's proposed to you and then save you a whole lot of headache and cost down the track. So let's say you do decide that you want to go ahead with managing it yourself. Maybe you think that just the stage you're at with your business isn't quite right for professional management. How do you therefore minimize the risks and the costs? What can you do to make the chance of success greater? The first thing you need to do is start by learning the Google Ads platform as best as you can. You must always be learning, always be learning. So go through tutorials like the ones on this channel. I'll link some resources in the video description, some ebooks and websites you can read, and start by getting a feel for the platform. Does it make sense to you? You know, what Google's asking to do? Can you see yourself being comfortable and confident using it? Or are you going to sit there and every time there's another option in front of you, you're going to sort of not freak out, but get a bit worried about what you should be doing? Because if you don't have confidence and you're not comfortable, it's going to be a lot harder to minimize the risks of bad Google advertising, which is obviously wasting your money. You do need to accept that you'll make mistakes when you're doing it yourself. Even pros make mistakes, and these mistakes will cost you time and they will cost you money. You've just got to be comfortable with that. And I know that when you're a small business owner, that can be really, really painful because you've often not got a lot of money to spend, but you hopefully, by following the advice I give and by checking lots of tutorials and sort of sense checking everything you're doing, hopefully you will be able to minimize the risk of wasting that money. What you do need to do is learn the big pitfalls that tend to cost lots of money and I like to say claim lots of newbie scalps. And there are 3 things I want to talk about specifically: broad match keywords, location targeting, and what we call Google Ads Express. So basically broad match keywords are where we supply to Google the keywords we want to advertise on. So this is one of the things that really claims a lot of people when doing their own Google AdWords. Google suggests that you add keywords by default in something we call broad match mode, or broad match sort of match type. So there's 4 different ways you can match your keywords to users' searches on Google Ads. And the default one, as I mentioned, is this broad match one. And what that does is gives Google lots and lots of leeway when it comes to interpreting what your keyword means. So, for example, you might input one keyword thinking that your ads are only going to show for that, and actually Google's showing your ads for a whole lot of searches that aren't really relevant to what you're selling or offering, but Google thinks it's relevant, and you wind up spending a whole lot of money unnecessarily this way. And I've seen some pretty embarrassing stuff with businesses. I've seen a business that sold parts for Ford Escorts, old-fashioned Ford car, and they were getting ads showing for escort services, adult escort services, and people were clicking those ads, and it was costing them money literally every week, every month. And not only is that bad look for their brand, it's pretty embarrassing as well, and it is a waste of money. So you need to be aware of how broad match keywords work, and then how negative keywords work as a side piece. To this, how you use negative keywords to block bad searches from triggering your ads and triggering clicks, and I will link some resources about that in the video description. You need to be aware of location targeting. This always gets newbie DIY advertisers confused, so people will select the wrong location targeting setting. A classic example will be advertising to people not only in your target location, but people who are showing interest in your target location. So let's say, to use that example from earlier, you're a Dunedin plumber, and you accidentally set your location targeting to be showing ads to people in Dunedin and people showing interest in Dunedin, and then Google's pretty loose with how they define that. So you suddenly start having people in Auckland or Wellington or Christchurch who are seeing your ads because Google thinks they're interested in plumbing in Dunedin. They're clicking your ads, but they're never going to turn into customers because, hey, guess what? They live in a totally different part of the country. So location targeting gets people wrong all the time, costs people lots of wasted spend. A good example I can think of on an account I worked on was a business that was selling financial services to business owners in Canada, and for some reason, when I took over the account, they hadn't got this location targeting right. They were showing to people in Canada and people interested in Canada, and they were spending literally into the thousands of dollars a month on people in India searching for business financing in Canada somehow, and none of that traffic was converting because it couldn't convert, and it was just wasting them tons and tons of money. So be careful of this. And the final thing you've got to be careful of is what was sort of formerly known, I can't quite remember off the top of my head what it's called now, but Google AdWords Express or Google Ads Express. When you first create your Google Ads account, Google tries to coax you into using a simplified version of the platform. I'll do a specific video of this, but avoid that like the plague. What they've tried to do is make it more accessible and easy for DIY advertisers, but with the Express side of the platform, you've got way fewer options, way fewer opportunities, and it's harder to get performance. So, learn these big pitfalls that are going to cost you money if you get it wrong. I will do more videos on this as well, just basically looking at the biggest money wastes. But for now, get yourself familiar, look at the tutorials I've linked, look at the videos on this channel, and that will help you minimize the risks and costs. So in conclusion, yes, you can set up and manage your own Google Ads campaigns. I have every faith, every confidence that you can do so if you put your mind to it and you're willing to learn. Is it worth the time and effort though? Well, that is actually kind of down to how your business is operating, what sort of profitability you've got, what sort of cash flow you've got, what sort of advertising budget you've got. My sort of rule of thumb is if you're starting out in business or if you have a small advertising budget, really anything sort of $500 a month or less, you're possibly going to be better off managing your own Google Ads campaigns, because it will possibly be quite hard to get someone to manage it effectively for a price where you're not paying too much in management fees relevant to what you're spending on the ad spend. But equally, if you did wind up doing your own management and you do it wrong, you might blow that entire budget, rather than, if you'd spent $250 on someone's management time and $250 on ad spend, you could have come out better off. So you do need to be aware of that too. If you are going to manage it yourself, focus first on avoiding pitfalls and costly mistakes. Then once you've sort of got your house in order, you can look at optimizing for performance, and I'll do more videos on that. Start small and scale up. If you've got a $500 a month budget, you don't have to spend it all in one go. Start small, see what the impact is. Is it working? Look at things like your search terms that are coming through, conversions, all that kind of stuff. Is this traffic turning into sales? Scale up from there. Always be learning and developing your knowledge. So I'm going to be releasing heaps more videos like this on this channel. Obviously, I'll keep doing my conversational talking to the camera pieces that are more general topics, but I will be doing some very specific tutorials. I've also linked some good resources in the video description, including a really good Kindle ebook that doesn't cost very much money, that's definitely worth getting if you're going to manage your own Google Ads. And basically, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. If you need any help, drop a comment. You can email me on info@samfrost.co.nz. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.